In a 5-year span, I encountered Serafina at a Manhattan charity event, captivated by her allure. She exuded an irresistible charm, able to dominate any room she entered. With a pricey black dress that likely outmatched many cars' worth, she charmed me with her laughter at my jibe about overpriced wine, and we tied the knot within the year. In the following narrative, I'll unveil how Serafina's insatiable desire for wealth became her own trap. To fully appreciate this conclusion, let's travel back 5 years in time. In hindsight, I overlooked the warning signs, her obsession with costs, meticulously photographing every upscale restaurant, gift, and pricey moment for her social media audience. Yet blinded by love or perhaps an illusion of who she truly was, I remained oblivious. I was in commercial real estate, specializing in sustainable luxury properties, a field that flourished immensely. Serafina was well aware of my wealth, understanding the value of every stock option I held. To celebrate our second anniversary, I aimed to construct her fantasy, not just any house, but a masterpiece. I discovered the ideal property, 12 acres of untouched land, approximately 40 minutes from the city, boasting panoramic views that stirred feelings of awe beyond oneself. The land had been part of my family for 3 generations. My grandfather acquired it in the 50s, intending to build there but never did. My father inherited it, opting for urban living instead. Upon receiving the property, my brother Bramwell and I, who shared a strong bond, decided that he would transfer his share to me for a minimal fee to avoid legal complexities. He was a frequent flyer with commercial airlines and had no interest in property matters. Our trust in each other was profound. This trust proved crucial later on. For 18 months, I collaborated with Serafina in designing the house meticulously. Her preference was modern, so I incorporated glass, steel, and sleek designs, complete with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a floating sensation among the trees, an infinity pool merging seamlessly with the sky, a kitchen worthy of architectural magazine features. It was featured thrice. And the entire house cost $4.2 million to construct. I financed the entire project in cash as I could afford it, and also to make Serafina feel like a queen in her castle. The house held a deeper affection for her than she held for me. I acknowledge this reality now. An intriguing aspect of constructing a personal residence on family land is the complexities involved in legal structures. When designing the house, my longtime attorney, Patricia, a shrewd woman who had handled our family's estate planning for years, proposed an unusual ownership setup. The house and the land were to be recognized as separate legal entities. This arrangement wasn't unique to our case in certain real estate developments. The structure possessed its own title deed, distinct tax assessment from the land parcel. Patricia explained that it would provide us with greater flexibility for insurance purposes, potential future development, and estate planning considerations. At the moment, I didn't give it much thought. I signed the documents, and the house was titled in our joint names, Serafina and me. The land, however, remained exclusively under my name, as it had been an inheritance. Serafina never questioned the land title. After all, why would she? Viewing the property deed bearing her name, she considered our residence home 3 years prior. For approximately 18 months, life appeared ideal. Serafina orchestrated gatherings that graced lifestyle publications. She emerged as a modest influencer in the upscale housing niche, sharing polished images of our lifestyle. Her audience relished it, appreciating morning coffees on the terrace, sunset vistas from the master suite, and her casual mentions of property valuations in her tales. I frequently journeyed for work. Engagements in Seattle, Austin, Miami kept me away for a week or even 2 at a stretch. Serafina never voiced discontent. Content with her home, social itinerary, digital footprint, I assumed she was content. Upon constructing the house, I equipped it with an advanced security system, cameras at every entryway, motion sensors, the works. The intention was to provide a sense of safety during my business absences, but it had the opposite effect. 12 midnight, I was wrapping up a waterfront development project deal in Seattle when my phone alerted me with motion detection. It was 5 a.m. back home, an hour when my wife Serafina never woke up before 9. Assuming it was a deer or delivery driver at the gate, I opened the app instead, and there they were, Serafina guiding Thorne Castellan, my main business rival, into our house. He'd outbid me on 2 significant deals, while I bested him in 3. Despite the rivalry, we held mutual respect. However, the night vision camera footage revealed a different scenario. A clear kiss in the foyer, followed by Serafina leading Thorne upstairs, and finally the bedroom door closing. I stayed in that Seattle hotel room until dawn, holding my phone, monitoring the time stamp, as Thorne didn't leave until 6:03 a.m. Confronting her wasn't an option yet. Instead, I followed my usual routine, collecting data, phoned Patricia from the airport to scrutinize the property documents, particularly focusing on the boundary between the building and the land. She assured me she'd prepare a comprehensive report by the time I arrived home. Then I contacted Bramwell, who was transiting in Dubai. I briefed him about the situation. Serafina was unfaithful. Divorce was imminent. I needed to know he was on my side, and he didn't hesitate. "Whatever you require, brother, whatever you require." Upon returning home, I maintained a normal demeanor, greeted Serafina with a kiss at the door, inquired about her week. She spun a smooth web of tales about yoga classes and lunches with friends. I feigned interest, smiled, and presented the gift I'd brought her, a bracelet from a Seattle boutique which she adored. Within an hour, she flaunted it on her social media stories. Over the next 2 months, I chronicled our interactions. The surveillance footage captured Thorne visiting 11 additional times, always when I was away, and always staying overnight. For 2 months, I had dates, times, and video evidence. Patricia was working on 2 tasks during this period. One was a contingency plan concerning the land deed. The property structure was already established, with the house and the land being separate legal entities. I wanted to make sure that this separation would be upheld during divorce proceedings, especially since I needed a strategy. Patricia consulted with 2 additional lawyers, experts in complex property law. They confirmed my suspicions. In our state, property division in divorce primarily focuses on who holds title to what. Serafina's name was on the house deed, while I alone held the land deed. Legally, we already owned our separate pieces. The main issue was access. Could someone who owned a structure but not the land beneath it claim an implied easement for access? In general, courts usually grant access rights as long as they are reasonable, unless the land is sold to someone else first. In my case, I filed for divorce on a Monday morning and served the papers through an attorney. Serafina's shock appeared sincere, which nearly prompted laughter. She even asked why, as if the question wasn't offensive. I didn't refer to Thorne just yet. Instead, I explained that we had grown apart and I sought different things. I kept a composed demeanor, showed reasonableness, even appeared apologetic. Serafina's attorney was Marcus Levitt, an expensive, ruthless individual, exactly the kind I expected her to hire. A week later, the legal strategy became apparent. Serafina desired the house itself, not a share of its worth, no alimony, and no division of other assets. She sought ownership of the property itself, valued at $4.2 million. Marcus conveyed this proposal to me. In response to the settlement offer, I would retain the majority of our joint assets, such as investments, vehicles, art collection. The deal appeared to give her slightly less than half our total net worth. Upon hearing this, Patricia contacted me and said, "She's being greedy and foolish. She's so fixated on the trophy that she's not considering liquidity or income." I responded, "That sounds good," and instructed Patricia to counter-argue, but not too aggressively. My aim was to make it seem like I was eager to keep the house. I suggested offering Serafina $3 million in cash to forego the house. When she declined, I increased my offer to $4 million and then to $4.5 million. Each rejection made her more self-assured, as she believed she was prevailing. She thought that I was emotionally attached to the house and couldn't bear to lose it, but in reality, I was merely prolonging the process. Our divorce proceedings lasted for 7 months due to filings, responses, negotiations, and postponed court dates. In the 6th month, Thorne debuted publicly with Serafina at a restaurant launching event. Although nothing explicit was evident in the photograph, they were seen standing closely. Given the compactness of the real estate business, gossip circulates quickly. By the 7th month, I dined with Bramwell at a discreet downtown eatery, a place where confidential deals are brokered. "I require you to acquire the land," I stated, interrupting his steak cutting. He momentarily halted his slicing. The property in question, the 12-acre plot that includes the house's parcel, for what cost? $1. He put down his knife. "Alistair, that land is valued at roughly $1.8 million based on current market rates. But if I sell it to you at fair market value, Serafina's lawyer will argue it's a fraudulent transfer to conceal assets. If I sell it for $1, it's a family transaction, legal, binding, and harder to contest, especially if we execute it prior to the final decree." Bramwell leaned back. "What's the strategy here?" I elaborated on every detail. The distinct titles, how Serafina sought merely the property structure, the access predicament. He began to smile, then laugh. "She'll own a house she can't reach unless you grant her permission to cross your land, which I won't, which you won't. Couldn't a judge grant her access rights through a legal easement? Not if the land is sold to another party before those rights are established. You'll own the land outright prior to the divorce being finalized." She'll hold the property free and clear following the divorce settlement. The timing is crucial. Bramwell retrieved his phone. What do you require me to sign? The next day, we met Patricia. The transfer of land deeds was uncomplicated, 12 acres from me to Bramwell for $1 and other valuable considerations. We submitted it to the county recorder's office that Tuesday afternoon. Serafina's attorney failed to notice. Why should he? The divorce hearing centered around the division of marital assets, with the house being the contested asset. However, the land had always been my separate property, inherited prior to marriage, giving me full control over it. On a Friday morning, Judge Catherine Morrison presided over the proceedings. I donned my best suit, while Serafina opted for white attire, which I found amusing and suggestive of her mindset. Marcus Levitt represented their stance. Marital home at 47 Blackwood Ridge Road, valued at $4.2 million, would belong solely to Serafina. I would retain the investment portfolio, worth approximately $5.1 million. The division of other assets such as vehicles, furniture, jewelry would be discussed separately, but the main allocation was clear. Judge Morrison inquired if I consented to the terms. Looking at Serafina, who tried to suppress a smile, I said, "Yes, Your Honor." She believed she had won. The judge then signed the decree. The ordeal was concluded. Serafina now owned the house, and I exited the courthouse with Patricia by my side. "Doesn't she realize?" Patricia inquired, completely clueless. The decree mandated that Serafina had 30 days to take full control of the property. Within a week, I transferred my personal belongings elsewhere, clothes, books, cherished pieces of furniture. I abandoned everything else for her to keep. She could claim it all. I learned from shared acquaintances that she was arranging a housewarming party. Alongside Thorne, she intended to formalize their union, reside in the house together, and initiate a new chapter in their lives. She announced this online, vague mentions of fresh starts and claiming what's hers. Bramwell and I formulated our own strategies. On the day of her move-in, Bramwell hired a contractor. By midday, signs warning against trespassing were posted at every 15 feet along the property line. Bright yellow, professionally designed. Private property, trespassers will be prosecuted. Gated entrance leading to the property, situated approximately 200 yards from the main road and ending at the house, was secured with a chain and heavy padlock. Bramwell contacted me upon their arrival. "They've arrived. A black Range Rover followed by a moving truck. I'm on my way," I informed him. I parked behind the moving truck. Serafina and Thorne were standing at the locked gate, scrutinizing the signs. Bramwell leaned casually against his truck, arms folded, appearing completely at ease. Upon hearing my car, Serafina turned. "Alistair, what's this? Why is the gate secured?" I stepped out slowly, following Patricia's advice to remain calm, factual, and almost cordial. "The gate is locked because it's private property," I explained. "It's MY property," Serafina retorted. "The judge granted me the house structure," I clarified. "Indeed, that's correct about the building itself." Thorne advanced, having likely been evaluating the situation. "What's your game, Alistair?" You disregarded him, maintaining your focus on Serafina. "Do you recall how we arranged the ownership of our house when we built it?" She seemed puzzled. "What do you mean?" "The deeds for the house and the land were distinct. You had signed them separately." "The house stands on the land naturally," she broke off. I observed her expression as comprehension began to surface. "You own the house," I informed her. "Every piece of it, including each window, wall, and architectural element, is yours. Congratulations." "But what about the land?" Her voice grew softer. "The land was my individual property, inherited before our marriage, not subject to division in our assets. However, the house sits on that land." "Yes, it does." Bramwell stepped away from his truck. "Hello again, Serafina. It's been a while." She looked at him as if he had vanished from her memory. "Bramwell, you're correct. It's time for proper introductions. I'm now the new proprietor of these 12 acres, having purchased them from Alistair roughly 3 weeks prior. All paperwork, legal proceedings, everything is complete. It's mine." I observed Serafina registering this information. Noticed Thorne tense his jaw as he grasped the significance. "You can't do this," Serafina objected. "I have the right to access my own home." "However, in actuality," Patricia retorted, "you haven't been informed that she parked separately up the road following you. That doesn't automatically grant you rights. Owning a structure on someone else's land without an established easement or agreement, there's no inherent right to cross my property. If necessary, I'll secure a court order." The smile wasn't friendly. "Bramwell freely owns this property, and although a judge might grant you an access easement, it would necessitate another legal process with no certainty of success." "This is absurd," Serafina's tone escalated. "You can't make me settle for—what do you expect me to do?" I shrugged. You won the house, you got the house, it's up to you what you do with it. We'll sue for fraudulent asset transfer, Serafina accused. Sue if you wish, Bramwell replied calmly, but you'll lose. The land belonged separately to Alastair. He had the right to sell it to anyone at any price at any time. I paid a fair price. $1 is legally acceptable for a contract. Everything was correctly filed, nothing fraudulent about it. Serafina stared at the house in the distance, visible through the trees, its glass catching the afternoon light, her dream house, her prize, seemingly untouchable. She suggested filing a lawsuit for access, yet her tone seemed less assertive. I concurred it was an option. However, such action could take months, even years, and if successful, Bramwell would be entitled to impose reasonable restrictions on the access. Reasonable conditions? Thorne inquired. Bramwell smiled. For instance, I'm planning to redevelop this land. I've already filed the necessary permits. There's a pressing need for industrial composting facilities in this county. Managing organic waste in an eco-friendly manner. The facility would operate round the clock due to the high volume of material we intend to process, resulting in a significant amount of truck traffic and some odor, though we will strive to keep it minimal. Serafina's face turned pale. You're planning to establish a waste processing plant near my residence. Composting facility, Bramwell corrected. Quite distinct, and it wouldn't be right next to your house. Instead, it would encircle your property. We would likely process material on around 8 of the 12 acres. I observed Serafina's hands tremble. Desperate for this house, she had declined a sum of $4.5 million in cash, seeking instead the prestige, the location, items to boast about. Now she possessed an art piece beyond her reach. There has to be another way, she pleaded. She looked at me earnestly for the first time since our arrival. Alastair, please don't do this. You have everything you asked for. The house is yours, every inch of it. But that's not, she paused, swallowed. What more do you want? I don't need anything else. Bramwell coughed. I might be open to negotiations for the appropriate cost. Serafina stared at him as if he offered a lifeline in a desert. What price? An access easement holds value, he replied. The right to traverse my property to reach your house, that's valuable. I would need to make it legal, have my lawyer draft the documents. $50,000 monthly seems reasonable to me. Yet Thorne chuckled bitterly, suggesting it was blackmail. 50 grand per month, that's extortion, countered Bramwell calmly. No, extortion involves illegality. This is a business deal. I own land and someone wishes to traverse it frequently. Thorne stated the price for an access easement, stressing her right to accept or reject. Serafina was mentally calculating, her eyes revealing the sum. 50,000 monthly equates to 600,000 yearly. In 7 years, this figure would exhaust the entire amount received from the divorce without considering property taxes, insurance, and upkeep. This isn't viable, she whispered softly. No, I concurred. It isn't, so what should I do? I extracted an envelope from my jacket pocket and handed it to her. Here is a purchase offer. I'm prepared to repurchase the house from you for $2 million. She found the offered amount less than the house's actual value, but considering the access issues, she thought it was the best deal available. Her hands shook as she unfolded it. Go over the conditions, she stated. $2 million in cash, a 30-day closing period. This is only half of what the house is worth when it can be inhabited. She pointed out that the property's true value was $4.2 million when someone could legally access it. At present, it was merely an inaccessible structure. I need some time to consider, Serafina said. You have 30 days, I replied. Should the decision be delayed beyond that, the offer will decrease by $100,000 per week. I headed towards my car, and Patricia trailed behind. Bramwell informed Serafina she had to vacate the house in 3 days, requiring written consent and supervision for every property entrance. Departing without a glance, I was contacted by her 6 days later. She agreed to the offer. The transaction finalized 3 weeks afterwards. She received $2 million, significantly less than the property's value, considerably lower than if she'd accepted my initial settlement proposal. I sold the house to a developer for $3.8 million $6 months later. His interest lay in the land deal, as Bramwell included it at fair market value within the same transaction. Transforming it into a boutique hotel and wellness center, the property is now stunningly utilized. It's fitting for such use. Bramwell profited nearly $2 million from the land sale. Sharing the earnings equally was our brotherly obligation. Serafina and Thorne remained together for 4 more months, then separated due to strain-revealed incompatibilities. I believe she relocated to Arizona since then. The scandal surrounding Thorne's affair significantly affected his business, as associates disliked being linked to such drama. I recently acquired a downtown penthouse, downsized from the mansion. I no longer require a sprawling 12-acre estate or the need to prove anything. Patricia retired last year, and at her retirement party, she shared that the Serafina case was the most fulfilling of her 40-year career. She clarified it wasn't about revenge, but rather your wife's brazen greed, which was leveraged expertly against her through legal channels. The dollar bill Bramwell gave me for the land remains in my possession. It's framed and hangs in my office as a symbol of 3 lessons. Family is paramount, yet avarice often obscures apparent pitfalls, and occasionally the most effective retaliation isn't about damaging someone, it's about allowing them to self-destruct. Serafina coveted the house above a just settlement. She desired the prize over security. She was so engrossed in what she was acquiring from me that she neglected to consider what she was forfeiting. The fact is, I didn't ensnare her. She ensnared herself once she deemed besting me was more significant than constructing a future. I merely constructed the trap she eagerly entered. Then I provided her with the key to a door that would never open. Few realize this. In real estate law, structures and land can have separate legal titles, known as a land-building split. This applies to over 11 million U.S. properties, particularly ground leases in major cities. The strategic transfer of the land prior to the divorce finalization made Alastair's action devastating, as it denied any potential easement rights. Typically, courts allow access in cases of necessity, but this is not applicable when the land has already been sold to a third party. The importance of timing was significant.